Thank you, Almudina. Welcome, everybody. Today's topic for our fireside chat is addressing and managing change and uncertainty in compliance. It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Fabian Robicon. After a master's in statistics and information system management, Fabian started his career in France with Big Four, delivering IT audits and analytic services to various sectors. Then Fabian moved to London for IT consulting, mostly covering IT risk and IT controls management. Now, for a few years, Fabian is in Switzerland, currently head of analytics, digital, and innovation at Group Compliance for Zurich Insurance Group. Fabian recently completed a micro master in machine learning and was the product owner of the GRC implementation at Zurich Compliance. Welcome, Fabian.
Thanks, Saul. Hi.
Hi. On to our topic, Fabian. How would you describe the state of compliance today? What do you see the biggest trends and drivers for chief compliance officers and leaders, especially when it comes to the regulatory compliance?
Yes, thank you. So I think to address that, so let's step back a little bit here, right? And let's ask ourselves very simple but important question. Where is the market? What are the business priorities? And where the regulators are going? So if you have the answers to these, when you have a clear idea of your own priorities, so when that is clarified, then you should have a pretty good idea of where group compliance, the compliance function, is going. So compliance function is usually working with business and with regulators. So we should know business and regulators' priorities. Today, I see compliance being in a very interesting place as they have to be at least as quick as possible as the speed of the business, and if possible, actually compliance should be ahead of business in terms of speed. And for this, I would say that you must think almost at having compliance by design within the business. So the big trends for compliance are then like what is going on the market as we speak, right? So the keywords that you hear, such as analytics, automation, AI, chatbot, a GRC platform, of course, all these two topics should be connected to group compliance function. And if you are not working on it yet, then you should start the journey as soon as possible. The digital trend for all the topic I just listed quickly is a very, very fast trend. So you should jump on it as soon as possible. And actually, back to the question, regulatory change is not an exception here. It has to move from a process, let's say, from the past where the manual task and the manual monitoring were applied. It has to move to, I would say, a more automated process, a more efficient process, a more data-driven process, like having, for example, a GRC module for this, right, to track all the regulatory alert from the regulator's website. I think this is really something to look at. And then ideally, all these alerts for regulatory management, you can connect it to your risk, to your processes, to your controls through a GRC platform. More regulatory requests will come, and data privacy, of course, is a big topic as well to follow with the regulators. And we have to be on top of this. And if possible, as well as I was saying, ahead of these requirements. So that will be a bit of my quick overview on this question.
Thanks, Fabian. And definitely, we see a lot of new regulations coming from ECB on data privacy and on the topics related to data security. Uh, I would like to know that we have gone through the last 2 years have been difficult. How the pandemic and dramatic changes of last 2 years affected the compliance. What changes do you see?
Yes, indeed, very special past 2 years, right? So again, compliance is not an exception here, right? So what is happening to the business is also happening to compliance. So compliance is also accelerating its own digital roadmap, right? So more concretely, post-pandemic changes, I will list from an operational point of view for compliance function, more analytics, because this you can easily carry on while working virtually. Also to mention probably to perform more digital projects such as chatbot and why not AI pilots. We will come back to this. And we can as well continue to enhance, if applicable, the GRC platform. Also, as per the market, another very important topic, right? And you heard that one, so it's cyber. I think cyber is becoming more and more on the compliance radar. And in my view, this will grow. So compliance will have to look more and more at cyber. If you have some data leakage, unfortunately, in the company with customers' data, then of course some of your compliance control, like data privacy, data protection, will be impacted. And this is just to name just a few compliance control. So you need to have cyber on your radar. And finally, for this point, I will say that as digitalization has accelerated and is still accelerating, we have to work closely with first line, with business. I think this is becoming very, very key. And in my view, compliance will become more and more a trusted party to business working together to achieve the common goals here.
Thanks, Fabian. And on a related note, we have all adopted to the new ways of working. Have you made any changes to adapt to the new change how do you adapt to the new change in compliance world of new ways of working?
Yes. So I think, again, we have seen further digitalization, right? But maybe something worth to mention here is scaling up, right? I think more digitalization is very good, and I personally appreciate it a lot, right? It's bringing more opportunities. But you have to be sure that you have passengers on your very fast digital train. I think this is very important. You have a fast train, but without passengers on it, you will not go very far, right, in the digital journey. So it's very important to ensure that your staff, all your teams are with you on this journey. Your staff has to be engaged on the digital journey. So for me, in my opinion, management has to allocate time for skilling up resources. And I must say, if data today is the new gold, I think then your teams, all teams, have to be equipped to dig it out and use it in the best possible way. So I give you one example, right? When we implemented the GRC solution globally, training was very, very important in the rollout of the application. So we did a lot of training. We identified champions around the world in all the regions, and we made them traveling as well before the pandemic, of course. But they were, and they are still today, an important community to maintain and to network with. So this is the kind of changes I think to look at and to apply with a compliance function.
Thanks, Fabian, for sharing your insights. Definitely, training is the key part, and in the new world, how you deliver training to multiple countries, definitely it would have been an experience. Uh, I just wanted to hear that in GRC we hear a lot about resilience and agility. Do you see the compliance team becoming more agile and resilient? Do you see that in your world?
Yes, Raul, definitely. So let's cover maybe resilience first here, right? So from a human point of view, right? So surprisingly, the pandemic didn't slow down our business, right? And maybe this happened to some of the other financial services businesses. Even the opposite way, actually. So after a few weeks of, for people finding the new routine with new ways of working, then employees got actually even more engaged. So of course we set up, additional session, more informal catch up, more session to catch up as a team in a virtual way. But the key point here is that we trust people, right? We are driven by objectives, we are driven by timelines. So if the people want in the morning, to start the day by, let's say, swimming, biking, or running in the morning, and then do the job, then we will actually let them do so, right? So we strongly encourage agile working and well-being for our employees. And I think overall, in the past 2 years, something which was not on the radar but become quite important and is very high on our radar when we speak about the resilience of people, it's actually mental health. So mental health, I think, is very high on our radar. And today, for various reasons, you still have some people at home, right, who have never, didn't come back yet to the offices. And for this specific individual, for various reasons, they had to stay at home. The line managers have to keep the connection with these employees. It's extremely important for us. So now, after resilience, so quickly some words for the other part of the question, right? So the agility. Again, flex work is strongly encouraged here. And more, I think a project from business perspective are set up in a daily or weekly agile way. From an organization point of view, at the office post-lockdown, we communicated, our hybrid model. So hybrid way of working with a few days at the office and a few days at home. And I actually think that this new model post-lockdown suits actually better the employees as team are more flexible to organize themselves professionally and personally. So I think the two topic, agility and resilience of the employees, especially with what happened in the past 2 years, is extremely high on the radar. And we are giving specific instruction to line manager to really keep mental health and the well-being of your employees on top of your radar in the normal annual performance review exercise.
Thanks, Fabian. You touched two important topics. One is definitely mental health. That's on the top priority for most of the organization. And as we are moving into the flex hours, ensuring that people are spending time on health as well, able to do the activities along with all the work hours. At times, people are stretching long hours because of Microsoft Teams and always being available. But people need to take out time to do the activities and ensure their health is most important. And the last but not most important is the line managers having a direct line, having the contact with the employees, ensuring that they have a good communication and addressing the issues. Uh, on a separate note, I know that you have touched partly about digitization. We hear a lot about use of technology in compliance and primarily use of artificial intelligence. You talked about chatbots and digital train. How do you see the AI in compliance? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I will have to limit myself here, right? Because that's another topic close to my heart with a GRC system, right? So, but as an answer, let's try to do a short answer on that one. So, as per previous points, right? The digital train is fast. It's very, very fast train. So if you are still watching the train passing by, think again, because I think other people, other companies, your competitors are already on the digital train. And again, it goes fast. It's very fast train. I would say that compliance has to be part of it, right? So analytics, automation, GRC, AI, chatbot, compliance by design, that's how I call it, right? Where we want to go, a concept that should be part of today compliance activities. And if not yet there, then it should be on the radar at one point, right? So now regarding AI. So for me, this is going to be my point of view, but we can debate on AI. So before AI, if you do have an AI roadmap ahead of you, before AI, you need first to be solid enough in analytics. So that means you need first to understand your key risk, the data test you want to perform, the data flag you want to identify, and of course, the data sources that you need with the corresponding data quality level you want. I think this is extremely important before starting any AI journey. So without that, AI is still very, very far away. So now, when you are ready on the data side, so that means when you are ready with analytics, right, which I just very quickly described, then only after that you can start to explore AI. And very likely, very, trying to be concrete for compliance. I think machine learning is a field to explore, right? For example, with predictive analytics or models which are trained to detect some specific patterns, for example, fraud or anti-money laundering patterns. I think these are definitely some topics to leverage for AI in compliance. And very quickly to conclude on this question, another topic to watch out, I think, for AI is probably you heard about it on the market more and more. It's ethical AI, right? Or AI ethics principles. So here also compliance, I think, will have a role to play while still working very closely with the business. So I think starting already this year, we see more and more on the market, right? The partner between compliance and business starting to work on ethical AI. I think this is going to be a growing topic for compliance function while AI is spreading more and more on the market across business.
Absolutely spot on, and this is a topic we can talk for hours. This is very close to heart, your heart as well. And ethical AI is important. When we call GRC for AI, AI for GRC, at the same time we need to have GRC for AI as well, making sure that whatever we are doing on the AI side, it's governed well. So it's an important topic. Uh, I'm a sports fan. Taking the sports analogy, we hear compliance as a team sport, increased collaboration between the enterprise and the first line users, engaging the first line. How do you see in your role that engaging the first line for compliance?
Yes, definitely, Raul. So I see first line and compliance working together and interacting more and more, right? I think this is just going to increase more and more on various topics. But you can actually also include all the teams out of first line, like group risk management, usually second line, or audit function, usually third line of defense. So, me personally, I regularly exchange with senior leaders on the business side, and there are actually business function which have more or less the same agenda than us, right? So we want to have more collaboration. For example, on doing more analytics across the group, we want to facilitate more the access to data. This is a very critical topic. If you want to jump on the digital train, you need to really enhance the access to key core business data. You want to skill up the team, you want to progress towards automation. So we really have common agenda with all the function and compliance, right? So I think compliance alone is already part of the past. So you cannot really do your two-day mandate if you do not collaborate across functions. So I think this is really critical here. And actually, if you do increase the collaboration with other function, then you actually discover that you can create multiple synergies across the group. So at the end, it's a win-win situation.
Thanks, Fabian. And I agree that compliance is not a standalone function anymore. It has much more involved across the enterprise. And on the same thought, has compliance become more important from the board level priority? In what aspects? What do you think? And how can compliance leader improve their interaction with the board?
Yes, I think I will reply to this one, just by explaining very quickly our setup, right? So for us, we report directly to the highest level in the group, such as executive committees, group audit committee, and of course, a group chief compliance officer is directly under group CEO, right? So I believe this is the right setup, and I strongly believe that compliance has to be connected formally to the highest level in the company, because this is the only way to have actually the expected impact and to fulfill the mandate and the mission of a compliance function.
Okay. And compliance is a topic that we can talk for hours. But just looking at the time, that what advice do you have for us? What's next in compliance? How do we continue manage during this uncertainty and change? How do we keep on going?
Yeah, I will say keep it up, right? So remember, the digital train is very fast and it's moving every day. It's really, really fast train. So again, do not watch it passing by. Jump on it. Jump on the digital train. I think you need to start with something, right? So if you are early in the journey, start with something. Don't wait too long, but start with something. It can be, a small analytics use case. It can be a chatbot. It can be a simple dashboard in one of the visual tool on the market. But you have to start with something. Do not wait because anyway, you will learn and adjust on the way and discover all the requirements that will come to you. But I think to conclude, digitalization for me is not a task, right? It's not a task with a clear end date. It is a journey, right? So jump on the train and keep an eye on the landscape to be open, creative, proactive, and agile while you try to apply the best technologies on the market. So I think to conclude, I think it's an interesting time, even for compliance function. We do have an interesting digital journey ahead of us. And of course, compliance has to be part of it and will be part of it to deliver a compliance mandate to the EXCO and the board of the group. So that will be my view on the compliance function.
Thanks, Fabian. And definitely, as you said, I like the analogy of a digital train. Everybody has to get onto the digital train, no matter how fast and slow you get onto it, but you have to start somewhere. And it's a long journey as well. And we see the new regulations coming in and the changes happening. The environment has changed in last 2 years. So we have to get onto this journey quicker than what we have thought earlier, and we have to also ensure that with all this AI and coming into the picture, that how do we cover the chat bots and the bots as well, rather than just leaving it to AI to govern us from that point. Thank you for your time, Fabian. Absolutely, it was really nice talking to you on the compliance side. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.